All right, welcome to the webinar today that we're going to be talking about how to develop a track record to raise millions from your investors for apartment syndication. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different topics here, and I will also open it up for some questions for those of you who have joined us live and be able to dive into some more details there. But before I get started, let me tell you a little about myself and our group. I'm actually one of the managing partners of a group called PassiveInvesting.com, and you can go to PassiveInvesting.com right here. And for those of you who are, of course, joining us live, you can certainly do that as well. I'll type it into the chat box there, and you can find out more information about us. I won't go into a lot of detail about my background, but you can click on this Meet the Team button here, and then click on my name, Dan Handford here, and you can find out more information about myself. I am located here in Columbia, South Carolina, with my wife and our 4 children. We have 3 girls and a boy, ranging from, well, I'll just tell you their ages: 10, 8, 4, and 2. So a pretty busy household there. And so you can go to that website, find out some more information about us if you like. And then if you're interested in passively investing with us on some of our future properties, you can certainly do that as well. You can click on this button up here that says Join the Passive Investing Club. And when you click on that button, there'll be a form here that you can actually fill out. And then I'll jump on a phone call with you, discuss your investment goals to make sure that you are a right fit for us. And if you're looking at an opportunity, or if you're looking to invest in an opportunity between now and the end of 2020, we do have some offerings available. So we have this one right here called the Riverside Flats at Aberfoyle Village. This is a multifamily asset that's located in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you can take some time there to go to the website and find out some of the returns that are available on that particular property. And if you type in your information here into this box here, you'll be able to get access to the exclusive offering memorandum. And just so you know, that offering is available to accredited investors only. So if you are an accredited investor, I would encourage you to go to this website and find out more details on the Riverside Flats property. It actually closes next week. So if you're interested, make sure that you get that information ASAP. And for those of you who are joining us live, I'll just go ahead and type into the chat box so you have access to that link very quickly at your fingertips. And then finally, just wanted to mention about the MFIN Summit just real quick. It's coming up in January 2021, January 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. You can go to mfinsummit.com to find out more information about that. So for those of you who are joining us live, I'll type that into the chat box for you as well one more time. That way you can get more information and register for that event. And it's coming up very soon. So make sure you go there. It is the the best multifamily virtual event. This is the 5th time we've done it. We're not doing it just because of COVID. So it is we have figured out some things about what to do, what not to do when it comes to these types of events. And it's a great high quality event, which is why we attract so many people to this event. We had over 800 people at the last one, and we expect to have closer to 1,000 or more at the one coming up in January 2021. So let's go ahead and dive right now into the topic at hand for today. So the topic today is going to be on this developing a track record and how to raise millions from your investors for apartment syndication. So one of the most common questions that I see that comes across, and it's kind of sometimes it comes across as a question, and sometimes it comes across, if they actually see it, they'll actually do that as well. So it looks like we're having a little bit of an issue. Let me see here. Hold on one second. Somebody had just asked me a question about this page here. So I think Melissa's on here. So Melissa, if you can maybe troubleshoot a little bit on the MFIN website, looks like there might be some issues on there as well. So if you can kind of do some diving there, she can she'll research a little bit further. So all right, sorry about that little segue there. Thank you, Lorelei, for bringing that up to our attention. We'll get that set up as quick as possible and get this set up. So, all right. So, it's this question about, do you need to become a real estate agent or a broker? Sometimes it comes across as a question, but sometimes it comes across when they see somebody else who gets their CCIM certification, or they'll somehow get instead of a CCIM certification, they might become a broker or real estate agent or something like that. And it's because they think that they need that, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that you do not need that. You do not need to become a real estate agent. You do not need to become a broker in order to be an apartment syndicator, right? You certainly don't need it to be a passive investor inside of multifamily. But it looks like it's working now on her end, Lorelei. So I don't know if you want to try a different way to get in there or whatever. I might be able to give you the a different link here. Try going to this page right here, Lorelei, and that'll probably help you. It might be a redirect issue in there. Um, but for you, if you're wanting to be an active apartment syndicator, it is not necessary to get a license to be a real estate agent or a broker or anything like that. If you want to just be an apartment syndicator, obviously, if you're wanting to, sell properties or, be a mortgage broker or, be a broker to actually sell these multifamily assets, then obviously you have to be licensed, right? But we're talking about being an apartment syndicator where you're the main operator, you're the sponsor, you're putting the deal together, you're bringing in the investors, and you're doing all the legwork that is involved with running your own multifamily syndication business. And you do not need to have become a real estate agent or a broker. Now, if you are already a real estate agent or a broker, is it necessary to stop that or get rid of your license? Or obviously not, right? You don't necessarily need to do that. I probably wouldn't do that if I was a real estate agent or a broker. I don't have any of those licensures or any of those qualifications. And it's, I think a lot of people probably more lean towards the CCIM certification because it actually allows for a lot of more education when it comes to analyzing deals and structuring deals and putting things together. And so a lot of people will go after that because they feel like it will help them in their educational journey. And I would agree with them. I would say it definitely would help you, especially if you're the type of person that really just loves to learn, loves that, have that extra leg of knowledge. I think that would help you. And it's not going to be a bad thing, or it's just, I want to make sure that you guys understand it's not necessary, right? The second thing I wanted to bring up is about, do you need to have experience managing multifamily assets in order to be an apartment syndicator? So I would say that you don't necessarily need it, but it's highly recommended. And when it comes to the lenders, they're going to look for this experience in order to give you the loan, right? And you have to think about it from their perspective. If you have a borrower that comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to buy this large, $5 million complex," they're going to say, "Well, what experience do you have in being able to manage a large asset like that?" Right? And if you say, "Oh, this is my first one," they're probably not going to want to give you that loan, right? And so you're going to have to kind of build your credibility and build that kind of background and be able to manage those assets before you just be able to jump in and buy your first asset. And there's a couple ways to do that. So you can kind of going on with this third question that we have in hand here is should you partner with other syndication groups? Absolutely, that's a great opportunity for you to be able to learn from another group, but also being able to build your track record so that when you go and do it out on your own, you have that track record and that credibility of, yeah, I've been working for this group for 5 years, 10 years, or whatever it is, a year, 3 years, whatever it is. And now you can go out and you have that experience. Now, let's say you don't really want to worry about partnering with somebody else, but you are another syndication group, but you think you have enough experience in managing businesses. Well, that can also be another qualifying factor when it comes to these lenders, because a lot of these lenders look at these assets as businesses. If you know how to run a business, you know how to manage certain financial spreadsheets, then that's usually a checkbox. Now, it's usually going to be commensurate with the level of property that you're buying, right? So if you're trying to buy a property that's, $20 million, but you only have experience managing budget on a budget of $1 million, well, that doesn't really kind of, coincide, right? But if you have a business and you're managing a budget of 10, 15, $20 million a year, then guess what? That could be a similar experience level of managing the multifamily when it comes to the business side of things. So it all is going to depend on the lender when it comes to that experience, but then it's not always just about the lender, right? So who else do you think is going to care about your level of experience when it comes to managing multifamily assets? So I want this to be a little interactive so for those of you who are joining us live, I want to make sure you're paying attention here. So type into that chat box and let me know, what do you think? So we talked about the lender, right? But who else is going to care that as to whether or not you have experience or not when it comes to managing these types of multifamily investments? Let's see if I can get any good answers here. All right. So I got some really great answers here. Like everybody's getting it right. So we got investors, LPs, limited partners, passive investors, sophisticated passive investors. Absolutely. Those your investors are going to want to make sure that the operator who is managing that asset has the experience necessary to be able to manage it. Obviously, Ken's saying here, the tenants, right? The residents that are on the property want to make sure, and yes, they do as well. But obviously with these types of larger assets, we're going to have a property management company to do that as well. And Robert here says is this, the sellers are going to want to make sure that you have that experience as well. And that's actually a very good point that Robert brings up, because yes, you're investors, yes, you're lenders, but guess what? You're never going to be able to bring investors on, or you're never going to be able to worry about a loan, because if you can't convince yourself to the seller that you can actually execute on the plan of being able to close that property and you have experience doing that, you might have a harder time being able to get that deal awarded to you. So having that experience is important. Now, let's say you have no experience at all and you don't want to partner with another syndication group. What is another way that you can, or what is a way that you can have that credibility, that experience, without necessarily partnering with another group, if you will, like bringing another group on? Well, you can find a sponsor, somebody who has the ability to be able to sign on the loan guarantor, if you will, that has the net worth and liquidity, and the third piece, which is the experience to be able to help you manage that asset alongside you. And so that's another option, that you can actually start to find people that have that level of experience and they want to be able to partner with you and participate with you and be able to help you from that standpoint. So, but you, again, in that particular perspective, you're going to want to make sure that you talk to your investors and talk to the sellers about the credibility and the experience that your sponsor has. That's going to be coming alongside of you and guaranteeing the debt. So it'll help build up your credibility at the same time. Should you partner with another syndication group? We talked about this a little bit, but yes, I would suggest. So this is kind of my perfect plan. And I don't want to say my plan was perfect, because it was by all means not perfect, but if you're going to do things, I would do things similarly to the way I was doing them, or the way I did them. First off, I passively invested with a few groups first to kind of get my feet wet, learn the systems a little bit, learn the process. I actually learned a lot about what to do and what not to do when it came to investor relations, of how I was treated during those initial investments. And it helped me cultivate what we have now with our own passiveinvesting.com group and our own investor relations process. And I feel like we have really leveled up the investor management side of what we do, and we're handling our investors on a regular basis. And after you have invested passively with a couple of groups, you can now start to partner with a couple of groups. What I mean by partner with them is, reach out to different groups and say, hey, I don't want to take a large slice. I just want to, be part of your group. I want to be able to, be a good kind of asset to you, to be able to help from an asset management perspective, whether it be underwriting, due diligence, things like that. And then you can take a little bit of a slice of the GP and some share of the acquisition fee, and even maybe even bringing on some of your investors and bringing some of the equity along as well. And that'll all benefit a group as they're continuing to grow, right? And our group is constantly looking for various groups that want to partner with us, right? Because we're in the process of looking at larger and larger assets, and we're actually right now in best and final on a $102.5 million portfolio out of the Raleigh MSA, and we need partners to partner with us. Now, there's certain groups like ours that have certain limitations where we only partner with groups that can provide an additional value to us other than just the capital and the equity, because we want to make sure we're staying compliant with that. But we also want to make sure they can bring at least 7 figures or more in equity to our group. And if they can meet some of that criteria and they can provide some value to us, then we can help them, allow them to be able to come and join us with some of our opportunities on some of our projects. So that's something that we like to do. But there's also other groups that will bring investors on, or other syndicators on, to help partner with them at a lower dollar amount and different types of opportunities. So, and I have somebody in here asking about funds. Do you partner with funds? And the answer to that is yes. Depending on the terms and the conditions, then there are certain funds that really want to have a lot more involvement, or they want to have a lot more kind of strings attached. And so sometimes we have to say no to that. But, we are open to talking to other funds if they want to, participate in some of our opportunities that we have available. So yes, that is a great question there. The fourth question on here, and well, I have a couple of you that have asked some questions in here, and so I'll answer some of those questions towards the end. And if you have questions and you're on here live, feel free to type them into the chat box, and I'll try to go through them towards the end here after I answer this last question here. So the last question here is, can a mentor help you build your track record? And the answer to that question is maybe. So, and the reason why I say maybe is that there are, several quote unquote mentors out there that are really not active in the space anymore. And so it's hard for them to help you build your track record if they're not actively putting deals together. So even if they have, experience, 10, 15 years ago or 5 years ago of putting deals together and manage them and things like that, I don't know. Maybe the lenders aren't going to like that because they're going to want to have somebody that has more recent experience, right? But at the same time, when you're choosing a mentor, you want to make sure that that mentor is acquiring properties at the level and the size that you want to be acquiring them. So you don't want to buy, you don't want to not buy, I guess you are kind of buying a mentor, but you don't want to hire a mentor that is acquiring smaller mom and pop properties if you're wanting to go after the large assets, like the 100, 200 unit properties, right? But if you, and the opposite exists. So if you're trying to start off by just doing the smaller mom and pops, which there's nothing wrong with that, then you don't want to hire a mentor that only acquires properties in the 100, 150 plus unit space, right? So you want to find a mentor that matches what you're trying to do, but make sure you find a mentor that is active in the space and is actively putting together their own deals right now in the current given market. And so there's several different mentors out there that you could reach out to and touch base with them and see who would be a good fit, right? Um, my mentor in the space is actually Joe Fairless. I've been with him for several years now. Enjoy working with him. Enjoy him being my mentor. I don't think his program is open anymore for new students, but I always tell people that if I was, if I was not with Joe, I would probably be with a group called Think Multifamily out of Dallas, Texas. They're actually, it's with Mark and Tamil Kenny. I'd probably be with them. But there's other groups out there that are good. So there's a group called Wheelbarrow Profits with Jake and Gino. There's a group there. You have the Michael Blanc group. That's another group that's an educational arm. So there's several other groups out there that you could research. And my suggestion would be to jump on a phone call with them and share your story with them, and then have them share their story with you and see if your personalities kind of match up, and see if you'd be a good fit for them and then that they would be a good fit for you, right? So a lot of these groups, if you give them money, they're a good fit for you, right? And that's not how it works. I'm the type of person that I'm willing to pay more money for the right fit. So if it's the right fit, I would be more than willing to open up my pockets to make sure that I could be a successful, a successful kind of coach. John also mentioned here about Dave Lindahl. So Dave Lindahl also has a group. That's the RE Mentor, Real Estate Mentor, RE Mentor. So they actually have a good one. And a lot of these different groups have written books. So I got lots of books on my shelf from just about all these different mentors. And, some of the books I like and some of the books I don't, but there's always golden nuggets in each one of them that you can read and pull apart usually on each one of them. But as far as them helping you build your track record, I said maybe. And the reason why I said maybe is because some of them actually will partner with you on projects, right? And some of them will not partner with you on projects. And so that's one level of being able to build your track record. The other way to build your track record is if they'll allow you to use their name and they're as like your advisory board member or something like that. You probably have seen that on some websites, where they actually have an advisory board member, and that's actually their mentor in the space that has actually taught them. And so if you can go to a group, a broker or a seller or whatever, and have your track record built up because you have now have this relationship with this mentor. I've seen that done. I've seen that done very well. So it's definitely something that I would suggest that you consider doing that at the same time. All right, so let me open it up for some questions. I'm going to open it up for some questions and answers here. There's a few of them in here that have already been typed into the chat box. Also, there's one in the Q&A box here. So let me go through some of these, and we will get ready to answer some of these questions. But feel free to type it in more if you have them, and don't forget before the webinar is over to go to mfinsummit.com and register for the next summit coming up in January. So. All right. So let me see here. Jerry's got a question. Would the sponsor slash loan guarantor be concerned about a new operator hurting their reputation, or would they not be considered part of the, or would they not be considered part of the asset management team and not have a reputation risk? So the question is a very valid question, Jerry, and it's a level of question that is going to depend on the sponsor or the loan guarantor, right? So certain loan guarantors, they want to see that you have a little bit of experience as well. So they might be meeting some experience, but also the net worth and liquidity that you might be lacking in a particular acquisition. So, but there are sponsors out there that are willing to partner with you, and if you want to partner with them, you can certainly do that. Now they might want to have a little bit more or a lot more involvement in it because you are a new operator. So that you're going to also have to think about that when you're giving up more of the GP to that type of person. You're also giving up more of the GP because you're paying them to teach you and help to build your credibility and your experience by having you learn what to do and how to do things the right way as well. How to work with a loan guarantor. So, um, the way you work with a loan guarantor is you network and you reach out to some people out on the interweb, if you will, and you start to, well, one of the best ways to do it is at a live event, right? Well, with the middle of COVID right now, we haven't been having a lot of live events, but go to these different conferences and events as they start to open up in 2021, we hope, and start to network with people. There are people that go to these events that have the net worth, they have the liquidity, they have the experience level, and they want to partner with somebody just like you, but you have to be able to network with them. And I'll tell you what, I had somebody reach out to me the other day. So get your pencils ready here. I'm going to give you the name of a person that you can contact. Hopefully he doesn't shoot me for this. But I'm going to give you a phone number of a loan guarantor, a sponsor. He reached out to me the other day and said, do you know of anybody who would be interested in partnering with me? And he's got the net worth, he's got the liquidity, got the experience, and he wants to be able to help bring some equity to the table as well. His name is Alex Kogan, Ilixkogan. So you can look his name up. For those of you who are typing in, who are on the webinar live, I'll just type in his phone number in here, and you can give him a phone call, give him a text message, and hopefully he doesn't kill me for this. But it'll help you and benefit you because you need to build that relationship with him, and he can help you in being able to provide that net worth and liquidity, and also bring in some equity to the table for your next property. So here you go, right there into the chat box for all of you who are on here live, and feel free to tell him that I sent you. So I don't get anything for it, but he's a friend of mine and we've shared the stage together before. I used to do some loan guarantor work, which is why we were sharing the stage with him. But I don't currently do any loan guarantor work for anybody other than our own group. But he would be a good person to reach out to be able to discuss how that kind of process works with him, kind of what he charges, things like that. How does one find and vet apartment syndications? That's a great question. So there is I actually wrote an article recently on the, let me actually see if I can find this. I wrote an article on the 5 red flags for passive apartment syndication, and I ended up coming up with 2 more. So I'm going to give you a link to an article or a post on LinkedIn. So hopefully you have LinkedIn. If not, you should go get it. But I'm going to give you a link to a post that I did yesterday, actually, which lists those 5 red flags, and it'll give you some ideas on what to look for. And let me see, copy link to the post. So for those of you who are on here live, I will type it in here and you can see this particular post. I would also encourage you to follow me on LinkedIn. So that's actually the link that I just posted on there, is for the 5 red flags. I actually wrote that earlier this year, and I have 2 more that I've added to this. So now I have 7. So if you follow that post, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about in that particular one. And then you can click this link here if you want to follow me on LinkedIn further. You can kind of see some of the content that I'm putting out. You can just go to linkedin.com/in/Dan-Handford, and you'll find my information there for those of you who are joining us on the recording. I can't type you anything, but I'm sure it'll be on the whatchamacallit, the description inside the YouTube link. You'll probably find it in there as well. So let me go back to these questions here and make sure I have all of it in here. Do you have any suggestions on how to find a mentor? I mentioned that already. Can you write down those groups suggestions here in the chat, or can you repeat again? There's information. So I'll mention a couple of them. Let me just see if I can just type them in real quick. So you have Think Multifamily. Mark Kinney is a good friend of mine as well. He would be a good one to reach out to. That's that one right there. You also have, I'm not sure if Joe Fairless has any more, but you can go to Joe Fairless. He actually has a website, I think just joefairless.com. There's also Jake and Gino. I don't know if I have their website, but you can kind of Google them and check them out. And then you have Dave Lindahl, and you can reach out as well. Those are the four that I mentioned. So I'll just keep it at those four for now. And you can do some research and dive in a little bit deeper on some of that. So hopefully that'll give you a little more information, and feel free to tell each one of those people that I sent you over to get some more information. I always love to share the love with them and promote them a little bit too. So let's see. When someone is looking for a mentor, should they consider a mentor who is active in their target market? No, not necessarily. I actually don't think that's really that important. Multifamily is not market specific when it comes to teaching somebody how to do it. It's very, very easy to do. Even if I'm in Columbia, South Carolina, I can teach somebody how to do it over in Washington State. So the actual target market is I'm kind of agnostic when it comes to that. I'm a commercial loan broker. If you need more contacts with those people that get declined from the banks. Let's see here. All right. A couple more questions into the Q&A box here. On average, is it harder to find investors that are interested in new developments versus acquisitions? I honestly can't answer that question, Ken, because we have never done a new development. So I don't have any data to be able to back that question. So I do know some people that have done new developments that tell me that it's a little bit harder, but my own self, I don't have any personal experience with that. We have toyed with the idea of partnering with a developer to bring some of our own private capital to some of these types of multifamily assets, but we have not done it yet. So I can't really give you a lot of insights into that particular question. Let's see. How do you raise 9-figure capital for Regulation D 506 Charlie from foreign investors in Asia and the Middle East? So the best way that we have been told, which obviously you might want to talk to your attorney or CPA, things like that, but the best way and the way that we will bring on investors that are international into our projects is they have to have a US based entity with a US based EIN in order to invest with us. So that person who is a foreign investor would basically work with a local CPA firm here in the United States. And I can, certainly put you in contact with some CPAs here in the United States that can help with that, but also some attorneys here that can help you get those proper entities set up and formed. And then you can start to raise capital overseas or bring in the capital into the United States to be able to invest inside of these types of multifamily assets. We just don't accept any, when I say we don't accept any foreign investor money, meaning that if, John Smith from Germany wanted to invest personally or individually into a syndication in the United States, we don't do that. He'd have to create a US based LLC or entity and then invest. He'll put his money in that LLC and then invest with us through that US based entity. And then you can certainly do that as well. All right. Can you tell us how long you've been in multifamily and how did you get started? That is a great question. So I answered that question quite a bit. Hold on, let me just answer this last question and we'll wrap it up with that. How about that? So can you, was your first deal a JV or a syndication? It was a syndication. So I have actually never done a joint venture partnership. It has always been, as far as outside of a syndication, we have other JV partners that will partner with us in a syndication. But what I think you're referring to is a JV where it's just been a couple of investors and yourself and bringing down a deal, or a true syndication where you're bringing on multiple investors and you have the true passivity in that particular deal. All of our projects that we put together are syndications. And we're actually, I think, up to about 11 or 12 now that we've put together, just over $300 million and almost 3,000 doors. And this year has been quite a growth year for us, even in the middle of the pandemic. Even though our goal was to put together, closer to 300 million in acquisitions, only did about 165 million in acquisitions, and raised, I think it was close to about maybe 65 million in equity from our investors this year. So let me wrap it up and talk to you a little bit about how long I've been in multifamily and how I got started. So my wife and I actually own a group of non-surgical, let me see, logged off to be able to copy your links. And when I logged on, all the chats were deleted. So the summit is going to be held virtually. So our summit has always been virtual, Deepak. It's never been an in-person live event. It's always been virtual. So you can certainly do that. I'll type the links in here again for you, so you can have that. But just go to MFIN Summit and you can register for that. And I gave some of you a special promo code earlier this before the recording started, so you can get a special discount on the summit as well. So you can certainly go to mfinsummit.com and type in the promo code and get that discount. All right, so let me answer this last question here about how I got started. So my wife and I actually own 4 non-surgical orthopedic medical clinics here in South Carolina, and I also own a large online company called shopanatomical.com. We sell all types of skeletons and skulls and brains and hearts and plastic anatomy models to colleges, doctors' offices, universities all across the country. And so with the cash flow that I was generating off of those businesses, I was having to write large 6-figure checks to the government, and we were doing quarterly payments, not just once a year payments for our taxes. And so trying to figure out a way for us to try to get ourselves to the point where we could keep more of the money that we were making. And so we decided to start investing inside of multifamily. And somebody was asking here real quick before I finish this. I was going to type in these links here to LinkedIn. There you go, Marty. Excuse me, I dropped my pen. So in order to reduce our taxable liability, we wanted to be able to start investing inside of real estate. And honestly, I started looking at smaller multifamily first. Never acquired anything small, but in the small multifamily space at the very beginning. Our very first property that we did on our own was a 130 unit property, $8.9 million. And we raised about $2.5 million from our investors on that particular acquisition. And since then, we've been acquiring larger and larger assets. So our most recent deal that we closed was a $57.6 million property out of Raleigh, North Carolina. And we raised just over $21.4 million to acquire that property. And we're getting ready to close another one next week. So that largest one that we did was actually closed earlier. I was about to say this month, but this is December 1st. So last month. So it was actually early part of November of 2020 that we closed that deal. We have another one closing next week, which is that Riverside Flats at Aberfoyle Village that is on our website. I think I might have mentioned it to you earlier. It's on here. If you go to the offerings page, it's right here, Riverside Flats. At Aberfoyle Village. That one is actually closing next week. So that one is a little bit of a smaller deal than what we've been doing. So it's about a $21.6 million deal. And that one's actually located out of the Charlotte, North Carolina MSA. And so started, putting together our own projects ourselves, started to grow, and that's how we got into it. So I didn't actually, for our purposes, I didn't need a sponsor or loan guarantor because of my own net worth and liquidity. I was able to be the loan guarantor, and because of my experience and background in business, they took some of that background and experience in business and leveraged it. And we started off with doing more bridge debt in the beginning versus agency financing. And that's also another way that I got started with building my experience level with the agencies, is being able to take down some loans that were with some bridge lenders, which are a little bit more flexible when it comes to the experience requirement. As long as you have an ample net worth and liquidity to be able to back that. So that's kind of how I got started. And that actually was about, I guess I'm going on my 4th year here coming up. So it's been about 3 or 4 years now since we got started with that. And it's been a great ride. There's been a lot of things that we have learned along the way, and looking forward to in 2021 being able to get closer to that 300 million in acquisitions that we were shooting for this year. And that'll get us over that $600 million in acquisitions if we can complete that next year. So looking forward to doing that. Right now, like I said earlier, we're hopefully going to get that large portfolio, which is a $102.5 million portfolio deal out of Raleigh. So that will have obviously been our largest one to date if we can, or when we can take that one down. And so that'll just allow us to catapult into 2021 with a large acquisition under our belt from the very get-go. Well, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. I don't believe we have the next webinar set up yet. We're switching around a few things. I believe I think we were originally going to have Danny next week, and he might be switching to the following week. So we're going to try to switch that around and see who's going to be doing the next webinar. But it'll either be myself, Danny Randazzo, or Brandon Abbott that'll be part of the webinar next week. So make sure you go to, or you go to multifamilyinvestornation.com. You type in your email address there to be part of our email list, to be apprised of these webinars that we do on a weekly basis. We've been doing them now for a couple of years consistently, and just really enjoy having each one of you be here and participating, and looking forward to seeing you at the summit. I just had somebody typing in here into the chat box here about the event. Let me see. It said, for anybody that's on the fence, it's the best value that you'll find for the price. The MFI Summit is a great resource. So make sure, if you haven't done it already, go to mfinsummit.com. This is not our first rodeo. We didn't just do MFI Summit virtual because we were doing it live prior to COVID. It's always been virtual. We know a thing or two about multifamily investing, and I know a thing or two about doing these virtual events. So love to have you there, and we'll see you next week at the next Multifamily Investor Nation webinar.